I'm Anil Kumar. Welcome to my series on Solutions with Concept for EQAO Grade 9 test paper. We have taken up 2017 test paper and we'll discuss open response questions now. The very first question is question number 9, which is walking around the park. A park in the shape of a rectangle is pictured with algebraic expressions representing its length and width in meters. So the length is 55x and the width is 3x plus 7. So that is the park. Now the question for you is, the perimeter of the park P can be determined using the equation P equals to twice length plus twice width. Determine an equation to represent the perimeter of the park using the given sides, right? So here we are given length as equal to 5x, correct? And we are given width, which is equal to 3x plus 7. Perimeter, as the formula says, is 2 times length plus 2 times width, which you all know. So it is 2 times length, which is 5x, plus 2 times width, which is 3x plus 7. Now it's very important to show all these steps, right? 5x. So when you multiply 2 times 5x, it becomes 10x. And when you multiply 2 by 3x and 7, you get 6x plus 14. Combine the like terms, 10 plus 6 is 16x plus 14. So that becomes an expression for perimeter. Perfect. So this is the answer which you're going to write here. Perimeter is equal to 16x plus 14, correct? So that is how you're going to write. Now, perimeter of the park is 350. Determine the length of the park, show your work. So now we are given that the perimeter is 350. So we can actually use the formula which we just derived. So we know perimeter is equals to 6x plus 14. Since it is equal to 350, I replace P with 350 equals to 6x plus 14. And then we can take away 14 from it, right? That is 6x. So x will be equal to 350 minus 14 divided by 6, correct? So that is the value of x. So let's use calculator to find this out. To get 350 minus 14 is equal to 336. And we are going to divide this by 6. So, sorry, this is not 6 but 16. I'm so sorry. 16, right? So, not 6. Okay. So, we have 336. We are going to divide by 16. And it is equal to 21. So, we know the value of x is 21. We need to determine the length of the park. That means we know the length is actually equal to 5 times x. Now, since x is 21, it is 5 times 21, which is equal to 105, and the units are meters, right? This is kind of important to write. Units are meter. Since we were given perimeter in meters, 350 meters. Does it make sense to you? So that is how you're going to solve this particular question. I hope the steps are absolutely clear. Feel free to write your comment, share your views. If you like and subscribe to my videos, that would be great. So we'll take up the next question now. Here is question number 10, which is based on fabric purchase. The question here is, 2 companies sell fabric online. The total cost C in dollars for n meters of fabric for each company is given below. Fabric Fun, the cost is 4.25 n plus 3. And for C a lot, the cost is 6.5 n, right? So that is the direct cost plus nothing, right? Complete the chart below by determining the initial value, rate of change, and the type of variation for the relationships for each company. Justify the type of variation you have selected. So it's kind of important for you to justify also why did you select that kind of type of variation, right? So let's look into fabric fun first. So fabric fun means we are looking into the first equation. Initial value is right there, When n is 0, you get initial value. So that is 3.00, right? Now, it is all in dollars. So you could actually also include the units, which is the cost in dollars, right? Now, rate of change is 4.25 N. So it is dollars 4.25 each. Correct? So even 4.25 can work, but $4.25 each is the better rate of change. So whenever it is rate, it is some unit over some unit. Perfect? Type of variation. Now this is not a direct variation, it is a partial variation. Why is it so? Since if n equals to 0, C is $3, right? It is not 0, right? So if you sketch this graph, let's try to understand this part. Let me push this a bit here, right? So if you sketch this graph, what will you get? You will get a graph which will be kind of like starting with 3, right? And the slope of 4.25. So it will be kind of like this. It does not go through origin. That is why it is partial. Is that clear to you? Now let's try to answer this second part, which is for seesaw a lot. Here, the equation given to us is C equals to 6.50 N. Now, this is a direct variation. Initial value is 0, right? It is plus nothing. Rate is 6.50. You can say dollars for each. And type of variation in this particular case is direct. Since for n equals to 0, C is equal to 0. So if you sketch this particular graph, how will you get it? Well, for this graph, it is going to go through 0, right? It is going to be steeper than the previous one, but going through 0. So that is kind of important. And that is the justification which we are giving, right? So justification is at n equals to 0, C is equals to 0. And here n equals to 0, C is not equal to 0. In fact, it is greater than 0, right? You can write C is not equal to 0. So it is partial. Perfect. That is what it is. So I hope that makes sense. And that is how such questions can be answered. What's the new price? It's an open response question. So you need to explain the concepts as you go along. This graph shows information about last year's total cost of banquet for n students. So these are number of students and that is the cost in dollars. Now the question here is, this year the cost per person has decreased. So we have, the cost has come down this year, but the initial fee has doubled, right? So the fixed cost is 2 times fixed cost, right? Okay. Determine the equation to represent total cost C for this year. So that means we need to find first the cost which was last year, right? So first let's find this cost. So that is our exercise. And then we'll go for this year's cost. So what you notice here is the fixed cost of this each bit is $200. So that is $600, right? So we can say this cost is equals to 600, which is the fixed cost, right? Plus the rate. Now to find the rate, let's look for some good points. So what could be a good point? Well, let's take up this point. So what do we notice here? That if the number of persons is n, which is 50, then the cost is how much? So this is 50 for us. And this height is 600 to, let's count. Each is 200, right? 2, 4, 6, 800. Do you see that? So it is 800. So if you add, you get 14. So this is 800, right? So here, the rate is how much? So the rate in this case is, you paid $800. So write dollars on the top, 800 with 50 people, correct? So that is how you could find the rate. You have liberty to use calculator. Use it, since you might just do even a simple mistake here could cost you a lot of marks. $16, right? So this is 16, and therefore we get this as 16 times number of people. So every person pays 16 and a fixed cost of 600. So this is last year. Now what is this year? This year, let us look into the conditions. The condition for this year is, this year the cost per person has decreased by $5. So this has become -5, right? So this has decreased by $5, right? But the initial fee has doubled. So the initial fee has become 1200. You get my idea, right? So initial fee has doubled, so times 2. So cost this year, present, is 1200 plus, when you take away 5, you get 11n, correct? So let me rewrite this equation. So the present cost will be, fixed costs doubled from 600 to 1200, and this is less $5, so it becomes 11n. So that becomes your cost price for the year, right? So let me write down this cost price now here, which is 1200 plus 11n, right? Okay, now describe 2 ways the graph of the total cost for this year will be different from the graph of the total cost for the last year. So we have to provide 2 ways. Let's be very important. Let's describe 2 ways that the graph is different. So what are the 2 ways? One, it is the fixed cost itself, one way. Second, the rate, that is the slope. This gives you the slope and this gives you y-intercept, right? So these are the 2 ways in which we could describe it. So the description here should be something like this, that the y-intercept will be at $1200, right? This is one way, not 600, since it is doubled, right? And second is, the steepness will be lesser, so the graph will be less steep, right? Since the rate decrease. Perfect. Is that clear to you? So for the new graph, if you want to plot it, you could do that also, right? So let's try to sketch this one. So we are saying that it starts at 1200, not at 6, correct? And so for 50, so if you go 50, you don't have to go up by 800, you go up by 400. So we are not doing any calculation. So each is 200, right? So here each is 200. So don't go to 800. You go to just 400. So that becomes your next value. So for every 5, you go up by 200. You see that? So that becomes your graph for the present. Do you see, without calculation, we could fairly accurately sketch our graph. And that's the beauty of understanding the concepts. I hope it makes sense. Perfect. Have a good look at it. So that is how we are going to answer this question, which is draining away. The question here is, water drains out of 2 different containers at constant rates. Information about the volume of water in the containers over time is given below. So this one is the graph for container A, right? And here we have container B, which is the information given in form of a table. Now, we need to figure out the draining rate, right? Let's read further. What does the question say? It says, out of which container is the water draining at a faster rate? So we're looking for faster rate, right? So steeper, that is what. Circle the one, justify your answer. So basically, we need to find the rate of change of volume, and both are decreasing, so it is draining away. So here, let's pick up 2 values, good values. Well, that seems to be a perfect value. So we get a triangle right there. So coming down means negative. So from 60 to 10. So it becomes, you could write 10 minus 60, right? Divided by, as far as this is concerned, so we did 10, which is this point, right? So this point here is 410, correct? And this point here is 060. So what we did was 10 minus 60, and we write 4 minus 0. So that is the rate, correct? So that gives you 50 with a negative sign divided by 4. So that is 12.5. Half of 50 is 25, 12.5 negative. So that is the rate for the first one. Now here, what is the rate? Let's calculate this rate also, right? So we can take two values. Let's take these values. So what we have here is 10 minus 32 divided by 5 minus 3, correct? So that is again negative as expected. So we get 2, and 3 take away 1 is also 2, and 5 is 2, but this numerator is negative. So we get negative 11. So you can compare which is greater. We know 12.5 is faster, right, than 11. Negative only means what? Negative means decreasing, right? So the negative means decreasing. So draining out, or you can say negative means draining out, right? So draining faster. So we are saying draining faster. Does it make sense? So the container A is draining faster since it goes at the rate of 12.5, and container B is going at the rate of 11, right? Liters per minute is the unit. Is that clear? The calculations clearly show that container A drains the water much faster than the container B. So I hope that makes sense, which can help you solve similar questions in coming up EQAO exams. So let's try to understand how to really respond to open response questions. Now here the question number 13 is related relations. A new line. A new line is perpendicular to the line represented by 3x minus y equals to 5 and has the same y-intercept as the line represented by 4x minus 3y minus 12 equals to 0. Determine the equation of new line. Justify your answer, right? So what we are given here is we are given line 1, which is 3x minus y equals to 5. Let us rearrange and find the slope. So taking y to the other side, we get 3x minus 5 equals to y. Or you can write this as y equals to minus, it's good to write 3x first. So 3x minus 5, correct? So from here, we know the slope of this line is 3. If that is the case, then for a perpendicular line, what do you expect? Perpendicular line, the slope should be negative reciprocal. So M2, the slope of perpendicular line, should be negative 1 over 3, correct? So that is first thing which we have got. Since it says that the new line is perpendicular to this line. So we got this part. Now, let's look into the second part, which is it has the same y-intercept as this line. So let's find y-intercept. So we have 4x minus 3y minus 12 equals to 0. So y-intercept is what we are interested in. That means x equals to 0. So if I substitute x0, I get minus 3y minus 12 equals to 0, or 3y equals to minus 12, y equals to minus 12 over 3, which is minus 4. So we have a y-intercept of minus 4, correct? So that is how we find y-intercept, which is the value of b, which is minus 4. So now we can write down the equation of our new line. It should be y equals to slope of minus 1 over 3x and y-intercept of minus 4. Does make sense to you, right? So that becomes our answer. Correct? So we have justified that the line is perpendicular to L1. Therefore, m1 times m2 should be equal to minus 1. So m2 is equal to minus 1 over m1, which is minus 1 over 3, correct? That is the justification. Second thing which you also proved, it is as same y-intercept as the line 4x minus 3y minus 12 equals to 0, right? So these are the reasons why our answer is perfectly fine. So I hope that is absolutely clear. So whenever you have open response question, you need to justify and write your answer in details. I hope that is perfectly fine. And write your answer below where they are given you space to write. I hope that makes sense. Don't let it melt. A model of an ice cream cone made up of a cone and a hemisphere is pictured below. So that's the hemisphere on a cone. Now it says the total surface area of the model will be painted at a cost of $0.0035 per centimeter square. Determine the total cost of painting the model. Show your work. So this is a model and we need to paint this at a cost of $0.0035 per centimeter square. So basically we need to find surface area, right? That is what the key is. Now surface area in this case is combination of two. So on the top we have a hemisphere. Correct? The formula sheet gives you the formula for sphere. So for sphere, surface area is 4 pi r square. So for half of it, which is hemisphere, it is going to be half of 4 pi r square. Is that clear? Which is 2 pi r square. Correct? Now in this particular case, we are given diameter of 12 centimeters. So the radius will be 12 divided by 2, which is 6 centimeters. So we can actually substitute 6 here and find this value as 2 pi times 6 square, which is 36 times 2, 72 pi. Is that clear? And the units are centimeter squares. So we got first part, that is we have found what is the area of the hemisphere. Now, let's look into the surface area of the cone. Now, in the cone, this part is open. We are looking into the lateral area, right? So, the lateral area of the cone is how much? So, for the cone, it is pi r L. That is the formula. Pi r L or S, right? So, it is pi r L, where radius is 6 and L is 25. So we can substitute this value. So we get pi times radius of 6 times 25. Correct? So we get our cone surface area in centimeter square. So we'll keep pi as such. We can combine later using calculator. We could always multiply, right? So 25 times 6 is 150. It's good to use calculator again. I will say emphasize on that. So that is what we get. So now we are looking for total surface area, so we are going to add both of them, right? So when you add both of them, let me write down here total surface area, which is equal to surface area of hemisphere plus surface area of cone, right? So for hemisphere, we got 72 pi, and for the cone, we got 150 pi. So let's add them up. 72 it is. Okay, so let's add them up. So we'll add 72 plus 150 and then multiply by pi, which is 3.14. So we get, well, it gives you 222 pi. So that is the surface area. Well, let's check it in decimals, how much it is. So this value comes out to be equal to, when you add this up, 697.43 centimeters square, right? So that is what you get as the value of surface area, correct? Now total surface area is that much. The rate is given to us as 0.035. So the cost will be how much? You need to multiply the surface area with the rate, right? So now we can find the cost. Cost will be equal to surface area times the rate. So in this case, it is going to be 697.43 times 0.0035. So we already have the first number in the calculator. We'll multiply this by 0.0035, correct? And write down our answer, which comes to 2.44, correct? So that is the cost. And the cost is in dollars, right? So mention dollars here. So determine the total cost of painting the model. So we have total cost as equals to in dollars, $2.44. Is that clear? So that is how you're going to answer this question. I would like you to have a good look at this particular solution which we have done. What we did here was we used the formula for surface area of a sphere, which is 4 pi r square. Since it is half of it, we did half of that. Substituting the value of radius as 6, half of 12, we got 72 pi centimeter square. For cone, the surface area, we are only looking for lateral area, right? Lateral surface. It is pi RL. L is given to us as 25. Substituting 25 for L, 6 for radius, we got 150 pi centimeter square as the surface area for the cone. Now, total surface area is combination of both of them. So we just added them up, got a value of 697.43, multiplied the surface area with the rate given to us to find the total cost. Is that clear? Perfect. So that is how you solve this particular test paper. I hope you enjoyed the journey of solving this test paper. We never rushed through anything. And I hope you can also see that we could do it in good time. So my advice to you is don't rush. Take your time to solve so that you don't do miscalculations, nor do you skip important parts of the question. Most of the time, the mistake which students do is they leave some questions unanswered or make some calculation mistakes, which is not worth when you're allowed to use the calculator, right? So make use of the calculator so that you don't at least make calculation mistakes. Perfect. And then never be in a rush, since for this test paper, you do get enough time to complete. And feel free to write comments, share your views with us. If there is any difficulty, you can email me on the email address given to you. So let me again thank you for your time and EQAO for sharing these set of questions with all of us. Feel free to write your comments, share your views, share my videos with your friends. Thank you and all the best.